Hello,
Hi.
and welcome to a Player 3 podcast review of Halo Wars 2. That rhymes!
It's cute.
We only really do this if we get the game early.
Yes.
And it's one of us that gets to play it. So
And there's an embargo.
there's an embargo. If you're watching this, it's hopefully sometime after 3 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, or else we're in a lot of trouble.
How did you get this? Why did you hack us? And why is this what you took when you could have had credit card numbers?
We're going to have far more coverage over on twoleftSticks.com with a written review. We're going to have a video review. We're going to have all sorts of cool stuff going on over there, so you can go check that out now. But this is just going to be more of a casual conversation, just for a couple minutes over here with my boy, Larry Hunt Zombies, Larry Hunt. I'm always visually stunning. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good.
I am too. You've played Halo Wars 2? I have not.
I have.
So fill me in. It feels like we're doing something wrong here.
Yeah, right.
Because we don't generally, do these kind of things. And we're talking before the embargo is up. But it's not going out until the embargo is up. So it feels like we're breaking the rules. And I'm going to be honest with you.
Breaking the law.
I kind of like it. I kind of like breaking the rules. So, quick impressions, really, just very quickly. Overall, how do you feel about Halo Wars 2?
I really enjoyed it so far. I played the first game, and I didn't even play all the way through the first game because I didn't like the first game. I'm a guy who really enjoyed StarCraft back in the day, and that's really the only real-time strategy I have a lot of experience with, but understand that I have a lot of experience with StarCraft. It was pretty obsessive for a while, and then it flared back up in college and got obsessive again. But the thing I didn't like about Halo Wars was, there was a ridiculous unit cap, so you couldn't have nearly as many units out as you could in Halo Wars 2. As you could in StarCraft. But also, porting real-time strategy onto console was just so clunky, and there were a lot of hotkeys and stuff you can use on the PC that you just can't translate into the console, and so you couldn't make groups for anything. You couldn't queue orders up. You had to be very hands-on in everything you did, and it just sucked. I hated it. But Halo Wars 2 has fixed a lot of those issues. The unit cap is a little better, but that's still an area that's a little disappointing for me. And it's not that they don't give you a high number, it's that the units themselves consume so much of that number. The base unit of a Marine is 3 or 4, takes up 3 or 4 units. And I'm like, why? Mm-hmm. But they did find a new way of using the control scheme where you pull the right trigger to have advanced controls, which enables you to make these groups and scroll through the groups quickly and queue up orders, and that has added a lot of control to the game that the first game lacked, which made it a lot more playable for me. I'm almost through the campaign, and I've enjoyed it. The story's been good. It's been interesting. Do you want me... Am I allowed to spoil that at all?
Let's save the spoiler talk till the end of the video, and we'll kind of give a heads up that we're going to get into it, because I think when people think Halo, they think story. And even if you don't think story when you think Halo Wars, it's still an important element. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But quick question, you may not know this, and it may be worth looking into. I think Xbox One has keyboard support. So would there be any way to kind of carry that over into into playing with Halo Wars where you can map stuff?
It would be interesting to see how they do it. And having no experience with Halo Wars on the PC, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I imagine they give you much more control over things on the PC, but right. I don't factually know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you talked a little bit on the podcast from the beta about Blitz, and you haven't gotten a chance with the finalized version to play the Blitz mode yet, right?
That's all I'll be doing tonight.
So, kind of just because Blitz is the new game mode, though. Mm-hmm. So kind of walk us through what Blitz is from the beta that you played, and knowing that probably most of that is carried over into the real version.
And I've been opening decks of cards for Blitz, so I know that it's going to more or less be the same thing. But yeah, they've mashed together real-time strategy and card games like Hearthstone, and I like Hearthstone. It's fun. I like real-time strategy games. They're fun. And mashing those two things together was really awesome. Recall some of the resource gathering, and like I said, the unit limit in Halo Wars is kind of a negative in my mind. But they've kind of overcome a lot of that in the multiplayer mode of Blitz because you're not worried about a unit cap. You're limited by the cards in your hand, and the resource gathering is just kind of an automatic thing. But you've got to put forethought into the deck that you build, and you unlock the cards through everything you do in the game. Every time I beat a campaign mission for the first time, I get a pack of cards. Every time I level up in the game overall, I get a pack of cards. So they're all I imagine there's going to be some mechanism whereby you can buy cards. I haven't really got into that yet, but it's easy to obtain cards just in the course of playing the game. But you got to think about your deck, how much energy do these things cost? What's the likelihood of me getting this? How can I use this strategically? And then it's up to you, while your opponent's playing their cards in real time, you've got to play your cards in real time, right, to capture these points. Blitz is a great name for it because it's just so frenetic. It's just nonstop. And blends two different types of strategy game together in a really fun way. So I love what I played of Blitz so far, and I'm looking forward to playing it tonight.
All right. So let's just let's bring back something old school P3P review style, and let's just go review in a word. If you had to pick a word that kind of encapsulates the experience you've played probably 6-7 hours.
Yeah, probably.
So, with the time you've spent with it so far, and I guess even the time mechanically with the beta and Blitz and all that, how would you kind of sum up your experience with it?
It's a real boring word, but I'll explain. My word is accessible. But the reason I choose that is because although the simplicity of Halo Wars 2 is something that could be perceived as a negative for people who have been longtime players of real-time strategy games, I think it's a great strength to the game as far as reaching out to new people. Jumping into StarCraft sucks. You just get your butt kicked for a long time before you figure it out. But this game, it's so simple. You can jump in, you can figure it out quickly enough. And although there's a loss of freedom of strategy, because even as far as building a base, in StarCraft, something like that, you can build a base wherever you want. In this, there are certain plots. This is where your base goes. Even though you lose a lot of freedom in what you can do, the simplicity just makes it really playable, really easy to jump into. And I think that's why it's been able to succeed in the console. The first game was successful on the console, when I don't know of any other real-time strategy game that can really claim that. And I think it's because it's so playable. And so you can jump in and have fun. It's good.
Cool. We don't do number scores, so if you're here wanting one of those, it's not going to happen. So accessible. If you're looking for an RTS, and you're a Halo fan, probably right up your alley, right?
Yeah. If you're a Halo fan, you've never checked out an RTS game, this is a good jumping in point. And even if you are an RTS fan, I think that the changes they made between the first game and the second game are good enough that, like I said, I didn't like the first game, but I really enjoyed the second game.
All right, so let's jump into the story for a second. So, just spoiler alert, we may not full blown out spoil everything, but if you want to just go into the story blind, then this is where you should stop the video, and we appreciate you coming by. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. But if you want to know a little bit about what to expect, because this is obviously a different medium than most people are used to with Halo, then stick around, because Larry's going to tell us a little bit about the story. What can we expect?
It's really interesting. The story at the end of the first game, so if you haven't played the first game, spoiler for that too, but the first game ends with you overcome your enemies, but you sacrifice your hyperdrive or your faster than light drive. I'm mixing up my sci-fi, everyone calls their thing that makes their ship go light speed a different thing in different games. I can't remember what Halo's is.
Your quantum drive.
Yeah, whatever it is, you use that to blow up stuff and it's gone. And so basically the captain of the ship, the Spirit of Fire, just commands all the crew to go into cryosleep. And so you basically just get frozen. So the sequel takes place 28 years after the first game, but nobody's aged because they've been in cryosleep. And so the first game took place before Halo 1, but the second game takes place shortly after Halo 3.
So lots happened.
Yeah. So they come out, they knew about Spartans. They had Spartans in their crew, in fact. But at the end of the first game, we were still at a point in the war where it looked like humanity was going to lose. They had no chance to beat the Covenant. they come out of cryosleep, kind of like alarms blaring, what's going on, not even sure if they're still fighting the Covenant or not. And like if you've played all through the Halo games, you know at this point there's like a truce between them and the Covenant, but they think they're still at war.
So they restarted all.
Not quite, but so they come out with a lot of confusion, and that was a really interesting story concept to take this last generation of soldiers and port them into a situation where they don't really know anything about what's going on.
Not to mention that Breaking Benjamin song happened, and then it got taken out in the remastered version, and so they're like, which one of these is canon?
Right. But they come out at the Ark, which is the thing that you blow up a Halo ring at in Halo 3. And people have apparently set up a research outpost, and there's a help signal coming from that, and they go down and collect an artificial intelligence, and all the people are dead. And she tells them that shortly after they had taken hold of this of the Ark, this brute who had been banished by the Covenant, in fact, his crew is called the Banished. He was the first guy to openly defy the Covenant and survive. And the whole time humans were struggling to beat the Covenant was struggling to contain the Banished. And so we didn't have a chance against the Covenant, but the Covenant couldn't beat this guy at the same time they're fighting us. And so you find yourself, he's trying to take control of the Ark to get these galactic weapons to wipe out, like he's going to use it against humanity. But you want to stop that before it happens, cut this down before it becomes a bigger thing. So you're fighting this incredible general from Covenant history as a good general from human history, and it's kind of this interesting play between the two. And the story, like, it's cheesy in places. There are a lot of cliche war story one-liners and such, but overall it's an enjoyable story. It's interesting. You get to learn a little bit more about the Forerunner technology and all that. And like all Halo games, the cutscenes, the graphics in the cutscenes are just incredible. Really beautiful. But there's this disconnect, though, because in the actual gameplay, the graphics are really nowhere near that, which only makes sense when you've got so much going on a map. But some things happen in story on the map, and so it's kind of weird to go from this like very realistic video to these very cartoony people acting out these scenes. But I've enjoyed the story so far, and I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's been good, and it's presented some interesting situations you got to think your way through. There's one level in particular I played earlier today that I lost several times before I figured out how I needed to approach it. Mm-hmm. And I had to, in shooter games, I'm that guy that's like, I've got to do everything and overcome every enemy. And I had to let go of that. Like, sometimes strategically you have to sacrifice things to get victory. And I'm bad at making those decisions.
So you know the realities of war now.
I do.
You basically could lead an army.
If DeVos can be the Secretary of Education, I can be the Secretary of Defense.
Welcome to the Political 3 podcast. Any final thoughts?
It's a good place to jump in if you've never tried real-time strategy. It's a fun game. Blitz in particular is a really fun game mode. If you like those card-based strategy games or real-time strategy, I think, although the campaign's been enjoyable, that's not what's going to have staying power for me in this game. I'm going to beat the campaign, and I don't know if I'll even go back and do what I usually do in Halo games and try to beat it on Legendary. I think it would be too frustrating for me. But playing against real people, I think I'm going to have a blast with that. And yeah, that's going to be fun. So if that's something that would interest you, like, definitely jump in and get this game.
All right. Awesome. I'm Luke. This is Larry. This is P3P Reviews. We love you.